Oh, the troops. You have to support the troops. The troops are fighting for our freedom. The trouble with that is we're losing freedoms in this country every day. So if the troops are fighting for our freedoms and we're losing them, well, they must not be doing a very good job. There is this theory, like a pendulum, where something goes too far one way, and then there's this overcorrection, and now it's gone way too far the other way. I understand it. And when you go back in time and look at troops, especially from Vietnam, but we could go back to Korea and then go back to World War II. World War II, the troops in theory saved the world. And when the war was over, they came home to thunderous applause and parades, and you've seen the photo of the kissing the girl and the thing, they're heroes. None of this happened in Korea, but why were we in Korea? What was the stated objective? To control communism. Well, how you going to do that? That's awful broad statement. Well, we'll just send the troops. And then we go to Vietnam. And in Vietnam, the soldiers went in tours. Maybe a 1 year tour, 1 year duration. So they're coming back at different times now. There was no parades. They were not treated as heroes. In fact, they were woefully mistreated, called baby killers and spit on. A lot of them, especially towards the end of the war, it was conscription. You were told to go fight, and if you didn't, you faced jail time in prison. And some people actually went to jail for refusing to go fight in Vietnam. Think about that for a minute. A young Cassius Clay was drafted to go fight in Vietnam, and he refused. And I'm paraphrasing, but he said something to the effect of, I have no problem with the yellow man. He didn't do anything to me, meaning the Vietnamese. He didn't do anything to me. I'm fighting my war here at home. And in his case, at the time, against the white man. He was fighting for his own rights. He didn't need to go to Vietnam and fight this imaginary war. It wasn't imaginary, it was tangible. But what was the point? Again, we're going to contain communism. America, well, the United States, lied its way into Korea. They lied their way into Vietnam. And then you had Panama, the Afghan thing, Desert Storm, on and on and on. Well, now it's Haiti, it's North Korea, it's Ukraine, it's all these, they're bad and we're good. You notice it was the Department of War, and then it changed to the Department of Defense. We're defending things now. Everybody else is bad. We're the good guys. At one time, that may have been true for a very short period after World War II, and it went south on us really quickly. It turns out the United States has worked in very nefarious activities and behind-the-scenes stuff and secret missions and secret operatives and banana republics. Maybe look into that a little bit. Look into the United Fruit Company in Guam and Puerto Rico, and we have to protect our interests now. It's about money, and man, so what's the target here? Well, we get young men with malleable minds, and we put them through a version of, a really light version of what's known as MK Ultra. This program that the CIA went into where they, deprive people of sleep, and they did all kinds, sexual abuse and sleep deprivation and drugged them, LSD, and there's a whole thing you can look up. This is a bad deal. But they implemented part of that to the military through basic training. You deprive them of sleep. You train them to follow orders, no matter what. Now, I understand this. In a time of war, chaos, and everything's going everywhere, and bombs going off, you can't imagine, I can't imagine, the sound of that, and how loud and traumatizing. You're seeing your buddy's head blown off beside you. This is bad, bad, bad juju. And we got to have, you've got to follow orders, and I understand that. But following what kind of orders? What is the mission? I'm just supposed to go kill them? And from the soldier's point of view, I understand it, because you throw me a gun and throw me out wherever this deemed enemy is, and they're shooting at me, I'm gonna try to live. I understand. But you've trained men now to follow orders, no matter what. The trouble with that is, what happens if there's a problem in this country and the orders are to fire on your fellow citizens? I've talked to numerous veterans about this, and they all say the same thing. No possible way American troops will fire on their own countrymen. Well, if that's true, what about January 6th? Why did they send troops to D.C.? What were those troops supposed to do? Maintain power. If the populace honestly had an uprising, which they didn't, but let's pretend that they were doing that they were going to do that. The troops were there to fire on the citizenry. Make no mistake about it. Now, they asked Oswald's wife, surely you're familiar with Lee Harvey Oswald, the man accredited with assassinating John Kennedy. Well, they asked his wife, in Soviet Russia, how did they get the troops to fire on their own citizens? And she said, they just got them from faraway provinces and brought them there. They didn't know those people. They had no attachment to them, and they were ordered to kill. On January 6th, troops were brought from Georgia and the far southeast of America to Washington, D.C. They don't know those people. We're under attack, and you will follow orders. You will shoot, and you will shoot to kill, whether it's your countryman or not. But you shouldn't believe what I say. I'm just some random guy in a wood shop. I mean, let's have a look at how other people feel about the troops, namely the U.S. government. There were 591 United States prisoners of war returned from Vietnam. It was a big media scene. And you get a little verklempt. You get a little choked up watching these men that had suffered in Vietnamese prison camps, returning home and hugging their families, and years after the fact. There were 3,109 prisoners of war who were just left in Vietnam. Heinz Kissinger, a Soviet agent that's been rattling around Washington nigh on to 70 years probably. Nobody elected him, but there he is. Well, anyway, we'll get into him later probably. But he negotiated a deal with the Vietnamese that would return these 3,109 troops to America for $3.2 billion. That's a ton of money now, but especially back then when this deal was negotiated, that's a lot of money. But isn't one life worth that? The United States Congress said no, not going to happen. What about all the Agent Orange that were sprayed basically on these troops? They sprayed it to kill off the foliage so you could see something. Well, many of these troops got sprayed, and they come back with cancer and every other malady you could ever imagine. What help was there for them? These are soldiers that fought for your country. Hey, bad deal. Sorry about that. Not going to do anything about it, but it's a bad deal. Talk to some of the vets that have gone through the rigmarole through the VA hospitals. These are your troops now. They fought for your freedom. Look how they're treated. There's a suicide helpline that went to voicemail. That's how much they care about you. Voicemail. At your most desperate hour. Just leave a message. We'll get back with you, maybe. I don't know. How many veterans are committing suicide now in the parking lots of VAs? It's happening all over the country. That's fine. Except it isn't fine. At all. Maybe you thought that you were doing the right thing. You were being patriotic. You were serving your country. You went through the MK Ultra program of basic training, where they took your malleable mind and turned it into something to follow orders and kill. No matter the reason, no matter why, no matter what anybody says, you are to follow orders. And then you come home after being filled with heaven knows what kind of chemicals. I mean, they run them through a gauntlet and inject them with guns, supposedly, you know, for vaccinations and what have you. We don't know. We don't know what's in the thing. And the government has this history of guinea pigging anybody they decide to. Well, what a better trial than random troops? I mean, it's okay. Well, then they come home with problems. Post-traumatic stress disorder, they used to call that shell shock. Harsh term, which is what it was. There's no hope, no help for these men. That's how they care about you. That's what they think about you. My theory is, what if we stop volunteering for this crap? All these enemies, foreign and domestic, imagined or real, what if we stop volunteering to go kill them? What if we said, no, we're not going to Ukraine. We'll defend the homeland in the event that it gets attacked, honestly. What about your Pat Tillmans that thought he was doing the right thing? And then after he got there, and you can see it in his journals, he realized in Afghanistan that this is not what I signed up for, and this is not what I thought it was. And then he was killed by friendly fire. It was an accident. But U.S. troops killed Pat Tillman. Look into that some. And then they lied about it. Oh, he's a hero, his big firefight, and try to cover it all up, you know. Because that's what liars do. They lie. They sold you this bill of goods about freedom, and we're the good guys. Everybody else is the bad guys. And people bought into it. And I'm asking you now, what if we stop volunteering for it? And if we got to go to prison, then we'll go. You can't lock up everybody. I think it deserves some thought. I think people need to think this through. The GI Bill is great. It's going to pay for 75% of your education. Wonderful. What good is that if you're missing your legs? Or if you have such head trauma, you can't get through day-to-day activities without medication, and even that isn't helping. What good is that GI Bill going to do you? What does it pay? $30-something thousand? I don't care what it pays. Is that worth the trauma on your soul, knowing that you have killed, knowing that your friends, you had to watch your friends' guts spill out in front of you? Is it worth that? For somebody's money interests, for the military-industrial complex to sell ammunition and weaponry, for the stock prices to go up, is it worth that? I'm for not supporting. It's not the individual men I'm talking about. I'm not talking about your grandpa when he was young that went out there and saved the free world in World War II. I'm talking about this business of anytime somebody doesn't do what the United States says, send the troops. The guys that are sending the troops, they have no skin in the game. Their kids aren't going to fight. They're not going to fight. You start the war, and you send the poor people to go fight them. Generally, the poor men. I mean, financially poor. Stop volunteering for this madness. I don't support that. When it comes to just this blanket overcorrection of, we got to support the troops. I'm sorry, but I don't. I don't support invading countries because they wouldn't follow financial policy set by the United States. I don't support that. I would recommend people question what's going on a large scale. You're about to get sent to Ukraine, Poland, whatever, to fight this war for what? That's not our business. It's not our conflict. It's not. Might look into it. Give it some thought. Tell me what you think in the comments. I do appreciate your time. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.